You mentioned a couple things in there that I would like to educate the audience on more. You mentioned decentralized identities and also Atala Prism. What are DIDs and what is Atala Prism?
So Atala Prism is our implementation of what we call DIDs, which are decentralized identities. So really what this enables you to do is to share securely things and facts and verifiable claims about yourself. So, to give an example of what a verifiable claim might be, it might be that I got, a 2-1 in my degree at this university. So what we'd go and do is that we'd associate that verifiable claim with my identity, and then we could essentially take a hash of that degree certificate and stick that on the blockchain. What this would mean is I could later share my digital degree with an employer. He could then compare the hash with what's on the blockchain and check that it's actually a real degree. So really what the whole DID movement is about is this self-sovereign identity movement, which is facts and information about me are in my control. I can choose to share those with other people, and they can then verify that those things actually happen by comparing them, with the blockchain. So that's the sort of idea. We're shifting away from all of the facts about myself being held by third-party companies like Experian towards them being held by me, and me being able to share them with a financial provider or a loan provider as I so choose. So it's almost a revolutionary concept in terms of how we manage identities, but it's incredibly powerful and it's gaining widespread adoption very quickly.
Yeah, and I agree with you completely. And a lot of people, especially in first world countries, don't really see the value of DIDs. And it's because they don't understand how the internet works. When we actually just purchase a pizza from someone, we give them our name, our email, our address, and, we give them all of this data. And this data has to, be somewhere on a server. And, what people don't know is that all of these servers are hacked. There is no way to build a server that is unhackable, right? So you have social security numbers that are leaked, names, email addresses, all the time from the largest financial institutions in the United States. So with decentralized identities, the value that this actually gives to people in first world countries is you can essentially sign something, just as you would send a transaction. And when you sign it, it states that it's you without the other party actually getting all of your information. It's revolutionary.
Yeah, so, one of the applications for sort of self-sovereign identity, which makes sense in a Western context, is the idea of a credit score. If I want to open a bank account or apply for an insurance policy in the UK, my credit score is being checked multiple times. And there's essentially a black mark left on my credit score if too many people are checking it continuously. So wouldn't it make a lot more sense to have the credit score done once, that'd be issued to me as one of these verifiable claims, and then for me to be able to share that with many different providers if they're interested in it. And let's say now that actually one company doesn't want to accept another person's credit score reading of mine. Well, actually what we could do is have them query my identity with some sort of algorithm, and I choose whether or not that information is to be shared. And this is sort of one of the things which, zero knowledge proofs, which is something you hear about a lot, come in, right? What about if they could ask certain questions and get, maybe yes or no responses? So what's really relevant? They want to know, am I over 18? So they can query that and it returns yes. What I don't want them to know is exactly how old I am. And you can take this concept across many different other pieces of your data. So we come up with this idea of privacy preserving, potentially reducing the number of times you have to have your credit checked. There's also just an efficiency element, an efficiency saving, which is what I'm trying to sort of get at.
Yeah, and speaking about Atala Prism and decentralized identities, this is a great segue into my next question. Earlier you mentioned that you're half Ethiopian. Well, a few months ago, IOG partnered with the Ethiopian government to actually onboard 5 million users, using Atala Prism. Hearing that you're half Ethiopian, it makes the story so much more inspiring. So can you just tell us, kind of from the beginning, how this came about?
So, my original role was head of strategy at the Cardano Foundation when I joined the project about 5 years ago. So after a while, I was more interested in starting to work on the adoption side. How do we drive real world utility for the technologies that we're building. So I pitched Charles to set up the Africa business, and about 3.5, 4 years ago, I moved to Ethiopia to look for opportunities for us to use the technology. So initially, I was focused on payments. I was really interested to see whether we could build a remittance business or something like that. But quickly I realized that actually identity was the thing we needed to start with. It's foundational for all of the other things that we want to do around remittance, around transactions, around transfers of value. So that's where we started. We built out the Atala Prism solution to be able to support these kind of use cases. And then we did a landmark deal with the Ethiopian Ministry of Education, which is, 5 billion users, 5 billion identities, and I think the largest deal of its type. So yeah, it's a great moment for us. It's really just the beginning. Since doing this deal, we've had a ton of interest from other countries across the continent and outside of Africa, all looking to replicate the solution or use it in different areas. So yeah, it's been a great success, and we're very close to actually implementing it now and going live.
So is that, kind of a before and after, scenario for the, operations in Africa? Once you guys actually made that deal, did the phone start blowing up?
Absolutely. The thing you got to realize is that no country really wants to go first. And that makes sense to me. Ultimately, people want to de-risk the implementation of any major technology stack. So for years, I had a lot of different countries and ministries saying, yeah, we're really, really interested, but not wanting to take the plunge. So yeah, since we've actually got the deal, it's been a very different scenario.
Yeah. And that's incredible. Hearing that deal, I was actually, moving to Florida, and hearing that, I was in a U-Haul, and I stopped. I pulled over on the side of the road to record a video to release this news because, this is what, you've been trying to accomplish for years, and it just happened. It's seemingly, the perfect moment. How long will it take to, roll this out to these 5 million users? And, when will these users actually start interacting with the blockchain?
That should be done by the end of the year. So I think December for the issuance on chain. Maybe it goes to like January, but yeah, we're looking at a relatively reasonable time frame. And then after that, the idea is potentially we can extend across the educational system. There's going to be a bid out at some point for the National Identity Program in Ethiopia for 110 million. So we'll be bidding on that. So yeah, great extension possibilities from this sort of beginning.
Yeah, that would be awesome if you guys really did take up the national identity for Ethiopia. My next question for you is, are there more countries in Africa, that you're planning to make partnerships with, after they've seen this in Ethiopia?
So we're doing a roadshow in October. So Charles and myself and a few other people from the IA team will be going around. I think we're on 7 or 8 countries at the moment. We're meeting with, sort of top level officials, either senior government officials, presidents, that kind of thing, who are all interested in seeing more about our identity solution. Some of them are interested in central bank digital currencies. Some of them are interested in remittance and, microfinance opportunities. So really what I've been trying to do is to start to put together a toolbox of what blockchain can do for you as a nation state. This is one of the core linchpins of my strategy, is being able to talk to governments in a serious fashion about digital transformation through blockchain. And I think in the space we have more credibility on that than a lot of the other players. So yeah, that's what we've been working on. Getting our collateral ready, our demos ready to be able to really put our best foot forward with some of these conversations.
Yeah. So, earlier, I didn't mean to skip, but, you mentioned that they'll actually be interacting with the blockchain by the end of the year. How is that actually done? You mentioned earlier, is it essentially just a hash that's stored in metadata on the chain? I know that's a little bit of a technical question, but I'm just curious on the interactions. Is it done once and then it's stored for good? Or is there updates over time as grades come in, because you mentioned it was with education?
Yeah, so we've defined what the verifiable claims or credentials are, and these can be updated. So you might get, your end of year exam results would be one of the things you might want to do, or your degree for your university. What you're not going to do is all of the minutiae of like what I got on that homework, right? Because there's also transaction fees essentially when you're storing this data. So we picked what's important and the things that people will actually want to be able to prove. Frankly, when I'm applying for a job, I don't think anyone really cares about what I got on, the 13th piece of calculus homework that I got in 1 year, right? But what they do care about is what my end of year exam results were. So that's the kind of thing we've done. We've split out what's important for people going forward.
So you mentioned this, toolbox of tools for blockchain that governments can use. What is in your toolbox? Now we've seen this with decentralized identities, and also, as you just mentioned, relative to education. What are some other tools that are really at the forefront of what you're offering to these governmental leaders?
So yeah, when it comes towards the sort of toolbox that we approach governments with, the foundation, as I say, is digital identity. And there can be extensions into education like we've done, health records, financial KYC. And then this sort of leads into the second thing, which is microfinance and reducing the cost of loans. So with all of this crypto liquidity we have, if we can connect that up to real people, smallholder farmers, SMEs, and to be able to offer them a lower cost of finance than they get on the local markets, offer a really attractive rate of finance to your international ADA holder, then it's a win-win for both parties. And that's very attractive for governments who often have very small pots of capital in their local loan markets. After that, one new thing that we're starting to look at is bond issuance. So can a country actually issue gilt sovereign debt directly to diaspora that they have across the world? And can we manage that, through maybe crypto payment rails and digital identities?
Define diaspora. You said, can they issue
diaspora? Sorry. Yeah, so diaspora are all of the people who've left your country. So in Ethiopia, you've got a country of 110 million people. I think you've got about 10 million Ethiopians living across the world, and maybe 6 or 7 million in the USA. So that's your diaspora community, the people who have left, but still obviously are very interested in their country of origin.